welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Eli Bosnick, and I'll be your constant as the Northern Star tonight, but I'll need a gaggle of backstabbers. Noah, Cecil, and Tom.
Oh, you misjudged me, Eli. I'll let you look me right in the eye and go full F2.
I'll hold him.
I'll
hold him for you.
Noah. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to thank our patrons. Patrons, without you, our sweet, sweet Cecil would have to ask his cats to teleport through bank walls and retrieve the funds he needs to feed them, which, of course, would awaken the last of the Chronomasters and start the fight through time all over again. And if you'd like to learn how to join their ranks, be sure to stick around till the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Noah, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite genocidal slave owner, Julius Caesar.
Ooh, top 5 for sure. And Cecil, you've learned his shape and form as has oft been recounted in story and song. Are you ready to kick JC while
Just
he's
say what
down?
you mean. I hate metaphors, too, as well.
I missed Heath, too.
Yes, exactly. All right, so tell us, Cecil, who was Julius Caesar?
Julius Caesar was a dictator for life in ancient Rome. The other side of that monkey paw was that life was less than a single year.
I know that's just a linguistic flourish, but I will be picturing him as a baby for the rest of the essay, so thank you for that.
He was a statesman, a general, governor, and aristocrat who lived and thrived during a very tumultuous time in the ancient Roman Empire.
Adorable little crown.
He was eventually murdered, Keystone Cop style, by a group of people he thought were his allies and friends. He's a guy who lived over 2,000 years ago, and we still talk about him because he has a month named after him, which he did. And Francis Bacon or someone wrote a boring play about him. I'm not sure.
Wow, really? Cecil, on Heath's week off,
wrote that.
you do this?
All I'm saying is if you leave out his calendar reform, Cecil, so help me.
I may have. Also, I thought Heath was here. I was going to cheers him, but he's not here, so I can't even cheers him. It's terrible.
He's cheersing you at home as he listens.
I know. We're cheersing each other. Long distance cheersing. Quick digression here at the start. They go through the great trouble of mentioning this in the Wikipedia article. Quote, there is no evidence that Caesar himself was born by cesarean section. Such operations entailed the death of the mother. But Caesar's mother lived for decades after his birth, and no ancient sources record any difficulty with that birth, end quote. The National Institute of Health in the UK says that, quote, Roman law under Caesar decreed that all women who died during childbirth must be cut open, hence cesarean, end quote. They also suggest that the names for certain kinds of cuts might also be the origin, but in any case, he was born naturally, and the name of that procedure is for some other reason.
That is a very, very weird rule. Like, well, she's dead. I guess now we get to find out if she was really a Kinder egg.
It is kind of like the salad, though.
Scholars believe that Gaius Julius Caesar was born in July in the year 100 BC.
How could he be born in July? It's named after him. That's like Jesus wearing a crucifix. I don't get it.
He was born into the ruling class in Rome. His family, while part of the in crowd, was not particularly powerful. Now, in ancient Rome, they named a lot of people after each other, so it's kind of hard to understand. But basically, his dad had the same name, and so did his grandfather. So Gaius Julius Caesar, the granddad, has a daughter, Julia, and a son, Gaius Julius Caesar, who is Caesar, the dictator's dad. Julia marries a fellow by the name of Gaius Marius, and Julius Caesar's dad marries and has a kid of his own that he names Gaius Julius Caesar, who would eventually become a giant dictator.
I mean, I'd take over the state by force just to end that naming convention, so I fucking get it, Cecil. I'm in.
Two, my guy.
Through marriage with powerful people, namely the 7-time consul Gaius Marius, Caesar's family grabs more and more power. Julius Caesar was born and spent his young life during a very tumultuous time in Rome, like I said earlier. This was a time of civil wars, general unrest, and his uncle Gaius Marius eventually becomes enemies with Sulla. the first ever general in Rome's history to seize power by force and become a dictator. Caesar's dad was governor of Asia, and, quote, in 85 BC, Caesar's father died suddenly while putting on his shoes one morning without any apparent cause, end quote.
I mean, I think someone just called for Gaius Julius for the 800th time in that house and he had an aneurysm. So
I feel like maybe somebody should have asked more questions of the dude standing behind the body with both hands behind his back going, no apparent cause at all. It's just nothing I can see.
Caesar, at 16, is nominated to become a high priest of Jupiter. And this coincides with his uncle's enemy, Sulla, coming back to Rome and eliminating anyone that opposed him. Caesar has to marry in order to get the role as a priest, and he's ordered by Sulla to divorce. He doesn't, and Sulla orders him to be killed. Caesar tells Sulla to eat his ass, and he isn't coming home. So Sulla takes all his wealth. Eventually, any powerful friends that Caesar had smooth things over enough to get him taken off the to-kill list, but Julius never returns to Rome while Sulla is still in power.
And he never got his ass eaten. It's a tragedy all around.
Right, he doubled his shame because he had the perfect tomatic salad dressing for it, you know?
It says it right here in the annals of history. He's never got his ass eaten. Caesar fucks around in the army for a few years until Sulla dies. He wins accommodation in battle and is sent as an envoy to secure a fleet of ships from King Nicomedes. He spends so much time at the court of the king that for the rest of his life, there'll be rumors that he and the king had an affair. When Sulla kicks the bucket, Julius comes back to Rome to become a lawyer. A few years go by and he decides to travel and learn the art of oratory.
Yeah, back to the analingus. Nice.
While crossing the Aegean Sea, he's supposedly captured by pirates. Now, this is a famous story, and it's hard to know if it's true or if it's just seriously embellished, but here it is. He's captured and he's ransomed. He protests when he finds out what the ransom is, telling the pirates that it's way too low. He's held for 38 days, and during that time, quote, he would participate in his captors' games, exercise alongside them, and order them to be silent when they were loud, end quote. He also wrote some poetry and practiced oration, reading this poetry to the pirates, quote, flatly calling them illiterate barbarians if his work was not appreciated, end quote. While captive, Caesar tells them that once he's released, he's going to come back with an army and crucify all of them. They think Caesar's hilarious and they pat him on the head and they send him on his way when the ransom's paid. And then he did just that. He raised an army, caught the pirates, crucified them, but he mercifully slit their throats before they were strung up.
Okay, we have very different definitions of merciful, Cecil, and that's why I'm glad I'm on your side.
You think they were really surprised to see him? Like, hey, but we did burpees together,
right.
man. What the fuck?
I like the poems.
Caesar holds several minor political positions in the next few years. He also solidifies a relationship with Pompey, which will have its ups and downs for many years.
Bit of an understatement, but yeah.
Admittedly, bit of an understatement. In the beginning, though, his relationship with him is a huge boon. In 63 BC, at the age of 37, Caesar becomes Pontifex Maximus, which is like the highest priest of the College of Pontiffs. This appears to be a huge upset to the people who are actually running for that position, and there is some suggestion that Caesar actually just fucking bribed his way into the position. The problem was that Caesar wasn't rich, so he had to be indebted to others to get that position.
That was actually the first election where Bernie Sanders said we needed to get money out of politics. He was 45 years old.
And yes, by the way, if that sounds familiar, that's because that's the same office that the Pope currently has, Pontifex Maximus. Just keep in mind, knowing what they knew about Caesar, that's the office they wanted to conflate the papacy with.
He eventually acquired a praetorship, which is like a commander of an army. He was sent to Hispania, or modern-day Spain. In order to pay his debts, he took his military all around Hispania and he plundered. Now, this is a normal practice for generals to get wealthy in ancient Rome, but in Caesar's case, it was a little more overt. Quote, Caesar required military victory beyond the normal provincial extortion to pay off his debts. He campaigned and seized the capital in northwestern Spain, bringing Roman troops to the Atlantic and seizing enough plunder to pay off his debts, end quote.
Come on, man, we'll fight to the death. I have a bribe I put on layaway.
Y'all don't see how having a normal provincial extortion bar to measure things against is causing the problem? Really, you don't?
It's around this time that Caesar enters into the first triumvirate. This is a political alliance with other powerful people, one of which is currently his ally, Pompey. The other is the richest man in Rome, Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus, at the time, is censor, who's the guy who takes the census.
And blacks out everyone's
Obviously.
junk.
It's the guy with the beep.
Yeah, he yells beep when you swear.
Their alliance was formed mainly to band together and overcome other voices in the Senate and push their own legislation that benefited them. I guess there is some scholarly controversy over calling their alliance this because I guess it sounds way too conspiratorial. In any case, the reason it was formed was because Caesar actually metaphorically mended a fence between the two other members, and they were all like, hey, bro, let's start a podcast, man.
Okay, Cecil, let's be clear. Caesar's reign would end way more nicely than most podcast breakups, okay? It's much more
I guess that's true.
cordial.
Caesar was consul at this time, and he actually accomplished several notable feats. He initiated transparency by publishing the minutes of the Senate and assemblies, highlighting the Senate's responsibility to the public. He passed a land reform bill designed to distribute property to Pompey's veterans and the urban poor, and he used his influence to get command in Gaul, where he would go up and rack up victory after victory with the Roman army.
All right, well, it looks like Caesar's a great guy who's going to stay that way. So while I don't read ahead and get his name tattooed on my forehead, we'll take a quick break for some apropos of nothing.
We could just follow this star north.
Yeah, no, that one looks great.
I say, Captain.
Hi, Julius. Can I help you?
Indeed you can. First things first, any word on my ransom?
No, Julius. Letters take like a super long time right now.
Yes, you've said. All right, fine. More important is the disrespect that I was shown last night at my reading.
You're reading?
Yeah, he did like a poetry reading or something.
Like a reading was right. I was hardly an hour in when people started talking during it. The whole crew must be flogged, Captain. They must.
Julius, I've told you this. We're not going to flog the crew for talking during your poems.
Poetry reading, Captain. The theater is a sacred space.
Please let me throw him overboard, please.
Alan.
Please?
Look, Julius, I will tell the crew to be more mindful of, theatrical decorum or whatever when you're reading your poems, okay? And maybe you shorten your readings a little bit, right? Maybe, kind of meet the men in the middle.
Fine, but without the interstitial sound baths, they're not going to understand any of it, just so you know.
I feel like they're going to manage.
I'm going to murder all of you.
Good Jesus.
And we're back. When we left off, Caesar was a down-to-earth man of the people whomst leadership invigorated towards kindness and public service. What happened next, Cecil?
Caesar won a lot of battles in Gaul. We know this because Caesar wrote 10 volumes of commentaries covering the operations there. Quote, the account is naturally partial to Caesar. His defeats are excused and his victories highlighted, but it is almost the sole source for events in Gaul in this period, end quote. So
The lack of other sources is really galling, isn't it?
So while I regale you with his stories about an amazing general taking it to the Gauls, understand that it's basically still Dre, but with less rhyming. But according to Wikipedia, he racked up 8 victories, 1 decisive victory, and 1 defeat, which gives him a better record than most football teams going into week 11.
Okay, and to be fair, that fat guy and his short friend, they were really strong. Like there was a lot.
I feel like that giving a genocide a win-loss record is weird. That's just a weird thing to do.
While I'd love to recount all these battles for you, there's only so much sighing even I can take, so I'm going to skip them.
And our friendship will endure another episode, Cecil. Thank you.
The war in Gaul starts in 58 BC when Caesar is 42, and it lasts until he's 49 in 51 BC. During that time, his power in the Senate waxes and wanes. His allies, Pompey and Crassus, use their power to get themselves appointed as commanders in different lands, and also get Caesar more time to plunder Gaul and to settle things down up north. In 53 BC, the triumvirate loses a leg when Crassus dies in campaign in Turkey. Side note here, Crassus's head was brought to what is now Armenia, presented to the king of those lands, and then it was used as a prop in a play. With Crassus now part of the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, muppetational play back in Artaxia, relations between Caesar and Pompey started to deteriorate. Pompey also lost his wife during childbirth, and she was Caesar's daughter. With both of those tethers to Caesar gone, his wife and his dead wife and Crassus, Pompey joins the other political faction. At this point, he is the military power in Rome, and he convinces the Senate to dissolve Julius's governorship in Gaul and then orders Caesar to come back to Rome and relinquish all his power. Caesar says, "How about you eat my ass instead?" And then he marched his troops to Rome for a confrontation with Pompey.
No takers on the ass eating? I used the communal ass sponge. No one?
I had a salad. Still no, because let me tell you, I did. Fucking croutons are no fun for me. This is all for you.
It's for you. I'm doing this for you here.
What are these, pumpernickel? They're brown. Weird. Caesar, 2,073 years ago today, marched his troops across the Rubicon. Now, this, of course, is a turn of phrase to indicate the point of no return. The Rubicon was a river on the northernmost boundary of Rome. And him bringing his troops across it, it meant that he was ready for a fight. He was ready, but Pompey ran. And so did all the consuls and a lot of the Senate. With most of his opposition on the run, he decided to take a few weeks in Rome to raid the treasury and have one of his allies make him dictator. Caesar was not done with Pompey, and he chased him south. Pompey eventually fled to Greece. Caesar turned his attention to defeating Pompey's armies and started a mop-up world tour. He lost the confrontation in Africa, but he won in Spain and in Sicily. He begins to chase Pompey again, and he almost catches him in what would be modern-day Albania. But Pompey flees to Egypt. Pompey had allies there and thought to gather them and then take the fight to Caesar. Well, when he landed, the Egyptians thought it would be better to be on Caesar's good side, and they killed Pompey right there on the spot. Caesar lands 3 days later and asks if anyone saved him some, and while there, he decided to help overthrow the current ruler, Ptolemy XIII, and install Cleopatra as queen. After he's caught up in Egypt, the people of Rome decide to renew his dictatorship in absentia.
Hey, buddy, we heard you were on a genocidal campaign of slaughtering your enemies, so we kept your throne nice and warm for you. Just a big fan.
Okay, it looks like the final vote tally is 107% of the citizens voted for you, my liege. And still the least corrupt vote in Italian politics history.
Yeah.
He and Cleopatra are besieged at one point by Ptolemy's forces, and he knocks Cleopatra up, waiting for reinforcements.
Seems like a slow way to build up your army.
Yeah. Fun. It would be fun.
Sure, yeah.
When he joins with the allied forces, he defeats Ptolemy, and he makes Cleopatra queen. She gives birth to his son, Caesarion. He then travels north to Anatolia to take back lands from the king of Crimea. He defeats those forces at Zela, which is modern-day Turkey, in a battle so blasé, he is compelled to write the famous line, Vini Vidi Vici, which is, I came, I saw, I conquered.
See, I always need at least a half an hour between coming and conquering, so good for him. Yeah.
Dude, at my age, I need a couple minutes between coming and seeing. Sure.
Caesar then goes on something of a world tour to kick the asses of the people who were trying to unseat him from power. He marches on Cato's troops in Utica, and instead of finding out what Caesar's going to do to him, Cato just kills himself. So did two other people from the anti-Caesar party, Scipio and Juba. Caesar heads to Rome to take out time for important matters, triumphs, which were gigantic ceremonies to commemorate victories in war. He then heads off to Spain to win a battle there to scatter the last of Pompey's loyal forces, who were being led by one of his sons.
First, I will throw a big party from me to me, and then we will rout our enemies.
Well, I believe it was 4 big parties from him to him, but yes, that was that was pretty much it.
I didn't include this, but he actually, one of the parties he threw was because he killed a bunch of Romans, and that like totally got him on the bad side of everybody in Rome. Everybody's like, dude, that's so gauche. Like, you can throw parties for other people, but don't you dare throw it for Romans. How dare you? So he never slowed down while he was a dictator either. He was battling, or he was triumphing, or he was getting on the bad side of a lot of powerful people in Rome. But
the calendar.
But he never, he did change the calendar.
Did he do, Noah? Did he do anything with the calendar?
Don't get him started on the calendar. Nope.
But he never stayed still. He was elected dictator 4 years in a row. It was in February where he took the title Dictator Perpetuo, which means dictator for life. That seems like the final straw to his opposition, and they would plan his assassination a little over a month later. Contrary to what some think, he was not emperor. That title would belong to his successor, Augustus.
Right, whose greatest triumph was apparently not being named Caesar.
Oh no, spoiler, Eli. He most definitely was also Caesar.
Gets to be a Caesar eventually.
Julius Caesar had planned to go to Partha on campaign in the next few days, and the assassins, who were all part of the Senate, needed to kill him before he left for war. They decided to kill him on the Senate floor to send a message that this was, in fact, political, and they believed he was consolidating too much power. He was stabbed on the Senate floor on March 15th, 44 BC. Some sources say that while he was getting shanked, he grabbed a stiff quill and he tried to stab the people attacking him.
True.
And he wound
turns
up.
out the sword is way mightier than this pen. Oh,
Fuck!
God.
That show's wrong. Stupid.
Lion-ass poets.
Sort of cosmic justice here. He died at the feet of the statue of Pompey, stabbed 25 to 35 times.
Okay, maybe Mitch McConnell was just bracing himself. Have we thought of that? He's just getting ready?
I feel like for legal reasons, I should emphasize at this point to Eli that this is not an essay about Supreme Court reform. This is a historical essay.
I mean, but it could be. It could also be that, Noah.
One of these people who stabbed Caesar was Brutus, who was his political rival. Brutus and Caesar were long ago political allies, but when Julius started a civil war, Brutus sided with Pompey. He actually aided Pompey in his army, and when, quote, Pompey was defeated, Brutus surrendered to Caesar, who granted him amnesty, end quote. While dying, Caesar is said to have uttered, "You too, child," or, as Francis Bacon said, "Et tu, Brute."
Okay, even if it is a better translation to "you too, fam, let's stick with the greatest line in literature. Let's just do that one instead.
It's all right. The best part about Julius
Doesn't have
Caesar.
a metaphor. You love it. It doesn't have a metaphor.
The best part about Julius Caesar's
for Heath today. I don't know.
best part about Julius Caesar's death was that the assassins, so fixated on killing Caesar, never really had a plan for what happened after, and thus killing an all-powerful dictator paved the way for Rome's first emperor, Augustus.
All right. And if you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, Cecil, what would it be?
If you don't want a cesarean, have a plan B.
And are you ready for the quiz?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, Cecil. Everything we study and remember about ancient Rome and its leaders was, it seems, written by those very leaders. This
Yes.
seems like a problem.
Yep.
Why? A, well, imagine if Eli wrote his own autobiography.
Fair. Yeah, no.
B, well, not wrote it per se, but shared some notes with his mom so she could write it.
Okay, now it's better.
Or C, plot twist, there was no Lee Bennett Gaius Hopkins Award to win.
Oh, shit.
Definitely C. Plot twist, no Lee Bennett Gaius Hopkins
There
Award.
was not, alas.
It doesn't
alas.
exist.
Jealousy. Cecil, you took several opportunities this episode to slander what is perhaps the greatest play written by my close personal friend, William Shakespeare, but you shouldn't have. Why? A, that's Heath's spit, and you can't steal it just because
I
he's not.
can do whatever I want.
B, a lady swallows hot coals as a way of killing herself, and that is hardcore as fuck.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is pretty hardcore, admittedly.
C, the fault lies not in our stars but in ourselves, gave us a $15.99 origin to fuck around and find out. Or D, you're just Julius.
Jesus
Jealous.
Christ.
Jealous.
Jesus Christ.
Julius.
It's definitely that last one. You're just
That's what it
Julius.
is.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's
that
the
made me
one,
laugh.
yeah.
That
I
is
don't
The
know.
awesome.
Just- I don't
stupidest
know.
one. Yeah, that one.
Don't know who's going to win yet, but I know who's going to lose. All right. I have one. What would be the best name for a video game about Julius Caesar?
Okay.
A, Grand Theft Autocracy.
That's good.
B, I'd or Die. C,
Nice.
Julies of P.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Or D, Gall of Duty.
Oh, they're
Call
all
of
so
Duty.
good. Secret answer E, all the above.
It is all of the above. Damn it.
Oh, so good.
All right. Well, Cecil, nobody managed to stump you this week, which means you are our winner.
Well, I would like to choose Noah, and hopefully he writes a theme essay based on the one I did today. We'll see.
All right. Well, for Tom, Cecil, and Noah, I'm Eli Bosnick. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and by then, Noah will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can send what I'm sure are thousands of angry letters demanding the return of the sketch.
I don't know what
to
you're
our
talking
P.O.
about.
box.
You press that button, we
And you
forgot
can
about it.
Also, listen to our podcast.
We all forgot
Do
about
we
it.
have a P.O. box?
It's canon. We forgot about it. So
We did forget
We
about
forgot
it. It's
about
true.
it.
And if you'd like to help keep the show going, you can make a per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
I hope our P.O. box has a place for those letters because it's all filled with that sketch is really awkward letters that we get from everybody. So I hope.
We haven't checked it in a couple seconds, yeah. Well, Captain, as promised, I have returned with an army at my back and revenge on my mind.
It appears that way, Julius.
But since you were kind to me when I was in your quarter, I shall be merciful. If you are willing to listen to one last poetry read.
I choose death.
I also choose death.
Boo.